On the next all-new episode of My Adventures with Superman.
Perimeter breach.
Lois!
Dad?
People are after me.
Oh, you always do this.
What does that mean?
Perimeter breach.
My Adventures with Superman. New episode next Saturday at midnight on Toonami. Next day on Max. On the next all-new episode of Psalm 100.
That was so cool!
Dankeschön. I owe you all a debt of gratitude for assisting me here. Thank you. My name is Beatrix Amahauser.
Hold up, a foreigner? A girl?
Where do I start? Goodness.
Psalm 100. Bucket List of the Dead. Next Saturday at 12:30. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Toonami Therapy. Today on May 23rd of 2024, I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
Okay, and this is our podcast where we talk about anime, and sometimes even Toonami. Although, there's not too much to discuss. Well, there's not too much to discuss in terms of, shows that are airing, because last week it was just a bunch of rerun stuff, but there's some news we're going to discuss. But before we get to that, I need to mention, if I sound weird, it's because I'm in a different, or if I sound weird or different, I'm in a different room than normal. That my internet is not working at all, so I'm actually just doing this off my cell phone hotspot. But in order to get decent enough reception for that, I have to be in a different room than I usually am. So if I sound a little weird, that's why. Okay. So anyway, so we have the news. So we have, I can't remember what they are calling it, but they're deciding Toonami is branching out to another day, on Friday, where they'll be they'll be showing at Toonami Rewind. That's what it's called, apparently.
Yep.
Right. And on Friday, they'll be showing an episode of Sailor Moon, 2 episodes of Dragon Ball Z Kai, and 1 episode of Naruto. And just for the record, in case you're curious, this is not the dub of Sailor Moon that aired originally on Toonami back in the day. This is a different dub. That one back then was by Deke. The one they're going to show is a later one by Viz. With I understand that, I know the Deke made a bunch of changes in it, so, and the Viz one is more faithful. So that's basically that's the news there. So yeah.
So they listened to me and finally put some more anime on. Although they're already showing Dragon Ball Z Kai, so they really aren't showing all that much. All they're really showing are Sailor Moon and Naruto, because they've been showing Dragon Ball Z Kai for months and months and months. So I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do with the Dragon Ball Z Kai that's airing as part of the current Toonami. If they're going to change that, I don't know what they're going to do, but I am excited to see. Well, I've actually seen the Viz dub of Sailor Moon, the first 2 or 3 seasons of it, and it's a lot more like a normal dub that we are used to, rather than the really bad dub that it originally had. But Naruto, I haven't watched those early episodes in about 15 years, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. For Dragon Ball Z Kai, they are showing 2 episodes instead of one, which means that they will catch up with the Saturday one and then bypass it. So that might be something. What I'm curious about is because they're airing this at such an earlier time, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time, and you can make whatever adjustments are necessary for your time frame. I wonder if they're going to be what kind of edits they might be making to some of these series, because I remember, was it Kai or Super this applied to? I think it was Super. I remember when one of those was airing on Toonami on the Saturday night one, earlier than Toonami, like I don't know, like 4 hours earlier. They aired that at like a more kid time, and it was a more edited version. You know, like they like might have decreased the violence and edited some dialogue to make it more kid friendly. So if they're putting this at this time, which is about, I can't remember exactly when Toonami originally aired way back in the day. Let me just check on that again. But I think this is about the same time. So I don't know so I am a little wondering if they might like edit some things for broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
At least compared to what you would see on the Saturday night one, where you can get away with a lot more, but they still had to censor some things, like in JoJo, for example. So anyway, in regards to that, you might be wondering what we'll be doing for it. The answer is we're not sure right now. The problem for me is that it's not at a good time for me to watch, because I basically get home about the time that it ends. I live in Central Time, so everything's moved up an hour for me. So it's going to be tricky for me to watch it live much, and maybe I'll see it after. I'll watch it on my own time, but that's a bunch of stuff to see, so to go through each week. So I don't know. I'll definitely be checking it out on the first on its premiere. Definitely, I'll be doing that. Going after that, I don't know to what extent. At least I'll be watching it for the podcast. It's unclear. We'll figure it out, but at least for the next one, we'll be checking it out, both of us.
Yeah, I plan on watching it as it airs, but I have the advantage of being in Eastern time zone, so it's later in the day for me. So, better time for me.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm checking on this briefly. It looks like, I assume these are Eastern time. The original Toonami, yes, it did air from 4 to 6. So that's from 4 to 6. This one is 5 to 7. So they moved it back an hour, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this could be interesting. Yeah, I think I'll at least want to watch Naruto. I could probably get back in time to watch that, and that's the one I'm most interested in. When I was young, I had this kind of irrational hatred of Sailor Moon, so I don't know if I would watch it a little, if I'd like it more nowadays, but I don't know. We'll see. Things are up in the air. We will continue covering the stuff on Saturday. We'll see about Friday.
Yep.
Okay. Right, and I think that's everything about that then. I don't have too much else to say about that. So I guess that will probably be our discussion on Toonami for our podcast, because all they did was show Ninja Kamui reruns again. This week they are going to have some more. Well, let's see. They got Double Adventures of Superman. They've got the premiere. They've got One Piece and also Naruto. So as the first 4 shows. So we'll see what we'll do there. We'll at least be watching One Piece. Maybe we'll check out Superman also. Yeah. That's our big cliffhanger. Want to find out? Tune in next week. All right. So anything else you wanted to say about the Toonami Rewind?
No, I can't think of anything else.
All right. So, we'll get back to all the shows we've been watching for the podcast that are not on Toonami. All right. So, we've got Shangri-La Frontier episode 25. This is the end of the first season. And, well, it kind of just stops. Basically, they have the crystals and they decide they want to like make some things with it, but the better person will be this weird cat guy named Aramis, who I couldn't find who voiced them, but it sure sounds like the what was his name again? It sounded a lot like Ian Sinclair, the one who did oh wow, what, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. The person, Noah from Raeliana. He sounded like Noah from Raeliana doing kind of a more British accent. So I don't know. I looked online, I didn't see anything. But anyway, so we get that he's basically the comic relief character who's kind of annoying them. Ultimately, Rakuro and Sunraku. That's how I usually call him. I got all distracted by what I was talking about. All this. Basically, they're just going to be trying to get to keep going with what they were doing before, and he meets this person who's basically in the game looks like this sort of cute girl, but has this very obviously old man voice from her. And yep, that's basically the episode.
Yeah, it kind of ended without warning, and then I expected to see an episode of Shangri-La Theater, and instead it just repeated the opening spiel of the show and showed a little bit of pencil gone in the other character whose name fails me, and then that was it, and that was the season. Just ended just like that. So not much to say really about this episode because unfortunately it isn't really all that entertaining whenever it's just Sunraku playing the game. Although I still can't get over this pencil gone thing with Setsuna. And like, isn't that a NPC? Like, is she really mourning the loss of a NPC? I don't understand it.
Yeah, it was a kind of sudden ending. It felt sort of like a better place to end this really would have probably been after the big Weathermon fight. We had that, you have a few more episodes to kind of deal with the aftermath, and that would have been it. But I'm going to guess it's just a matter of, you could have done it there, but then you wouldn't have a full 25 episodes for a double core series. The good news is that we are getting new episodes later this year. We're going to have a season 2 in fall. So yeah, we'll see if we continue it for the podcast. The problem is that there's 2 other series that that premiere in that same season that I'm more interested in watching for the podcast. So
which ones?
ReZero season 3 and Blue Lock season 2.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. In case anyone is curious, if you've been watching along with us and you're thinking that you want to see more, well, you could wait till fall, but this does go through, I checked online, this episode adapts through chapter 58 of the manga, so you would want to pick it up So if you want to read it legally, you could pick it up on this would be midway through volume 7. You also can read the volumes individually on the K Manga app, although it's kind of an annoying app because it basically charges you money to read each individual chapter rather than something like Manga Plus or Viz Manga or Shonen Jump, which is just a simple, hey, here's a few dollars per month, read everything you want. So
how much do they cost per chapter?
I think they're so on K Manga, that's a Kodansha's app. What it works a little weird. So for most of the series, you've got all the chapters for a series, and for a while they're completely free. You can just read them, no issues. Then they become sort of rentable, where there are these little tickets you can get for logging in, and then you can use those to sort of read them for free, but you only get access for like a limited time. And then past that, you need to buy them, and you buy them with points instead of directly with money. So, but the exchange rate essentially is 1 cent per point. And then the normal chapters are like 69 cents each, and the 3 most recent ones are normally like 99 cents.
Oh, wow. That adds up pretty quickly.
This is why there's a reason why people really didn't like K Manga when it came out. It happened because Kodansha took all their things off some other manga sites, and then they launched this new one, K Manga, where not only was it U.S. only, I think it's still U.S. only for some reason. You know, it had all these like weird payment things for there. The funny thing is that back then, Viz Media, they launched one, Viz Manga, like they stealth dropped it the day before. And it was just like, hey, look at all this manga you got. It's $2 per month to access all of it. And which made, of course, people look at the K manga even more like brutal. Lee, I think it hit it's hang on, let me pull out my let me see where it was. I think it's down to 1. I know that people really downvoted it when it came out. Let me see what this is at now. Let's see. Sorry, it's going a little slow to load because, of course, it is currently at... Oh, it went up a little. It's 1.4 out of 5 stars now.
Wow.
So anyway, if you want to go through all of that, then yeah, it is available on the app. I mean, technically it is cheaper than buying the volumes, I think, by a little, but on the other hand, it's also like the volumes might be simple. Anyway, there's that. I honestly, if you want to like the better manga apps in terms of like price, like I said, Viz Manga, that's $2 per month. Shonen Jump, that's $3 per month. Manga Plus is free with an asterisk where you get a bunch of all the ongoing series you can read one chapter of for free. You can read each chapter once for free. And then if you want to reread them, you have to subscribe for $2 a month. And if you want to read a finished series, that's $5 a month. So those are nicer ones. Anyway, yeah, I turned into an advertisement for some of these apps.
We're not getting paid.
The weird thing about Manga Plus and Shonen Jump is that they each have a bunch of the same series as the other, so that just makes it a little more confusing. But yeah, I mean, I think they're reasonable deals. They're pretty cheap. But anyway, so that's all the stuff about Shangri-La Frontier. That if you want to keep looking follow it, those are the ways to do it. There's the volumes, there's the K manga thing, and I mean, I guess there's always, as they say, sailing the seas if you really want to.
Now, are we going to talk about the season as a whole?
Yeah, sorry, I got on all this stuff. Just for the record, I do not promote sailing the seas, as they say. Just to be clear, I'm just saying it exists. Anyway, back to this. Yeah, we can talk the season as a whole. Yes, I think I went on enough of my tangent. I just wanted to say this is how you can continue it because I kind of like to do that when we finish a series. But then I just ended up talking about manga reading apps and stuff. Oh wait, there was one more thing I wanted to say on that. That's the manga. The manga is based on a web novel, actually. It's a little weird because usually you get a web novel, becomes a light novel, becomes a manga, becomes an anime. There's no light novel for this. The web novel, if you know Japanese, it's available for free. You can read there. If you don't know Japanese, there are some fan translations of it that are available that people can find. I guess that technically kind of might count as they would say, sailing the seas, but the web novel is available in Japanese for free anyway, so I don't think that necessarily counts. Anyway, now that I've said all that stuff, yes, season as a whole, series as a whole.
Yeah, so it took a while for me to get into this. The early episodes, I was expecting something totally different. And so what I expected from this show was like a Sword Art Online type of thing. And whenever it turned out like there's like no real stakes to anything, it kind of made me not as interested in it for a while. But then once they started doing things together with Senraku and Pencilgon and the other person, then it started to get more interesting, and it was very entertaining. The action is very good. The comedy is usually the best part of this show. I don't know what happened with these last few episodes. Like they kind of it felt like they had time to fill, but they didn't know what to fill it with. So they put on this side quest, and the side quest ends the season instead of something big or something that would hook you in for the next season. So that's not a good thing, especially for me, because like I was expecting something more, but we still have that whole romantic angle totally unresolved, where that one girl has a crush on Senraku, but we don't really have any progress with that yet. So overall, I'd say the show is above average. Not one of my favorites, but it's still better than average.
Okay, yeah, I thought Shangri-La Frontier is a bit of a weird show for me because there's some stuff in it I really like, and then there are parts where it just kind of gets boring. I'm kind of, you mentioned the sort of romantic thing. Well, technically, I don't know if you can even necessarily call it that because it's completely one-sided and we don't actually like see them interact that much. Although I'll be honest, there's still more romance in this series than there has been in my teen romantic comedy Snafu so far. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed we didn't see more of her because she's like all like, you know, like especially in the second theme song, you see like the characters, you know, you see Sunraku, you see Pencilgon, you see Oikatsu, and then Rei's there also. But then you know them, and yet she does the least of all of them by a long shot. I'm a little disappointed we haven't seen more of her. Maybe we get a little more as the series goes on. There's still a lot to cover. There's how many chapters does the manga have? let's see, the manga's got, so we covered, again, 58 chapters. There's 177 chapters of the manga so far. So we're about 1/3 of the way in where the manga is now. I don't know how much longer the manga will run, though. I know, again, it's based on the web novel, but I don't know how far into the web novel it is. There's probably still a lot left to it. So the point is, of the chapters available right now, there's one. We're only 1/3 of the way, so still plenty of time for things. Let's see. So pretty. Yeah, you said it pretty good. I think I actually liked the first episode. I know I really liked the first episode, and I think the second and third not quite as much, but still liked it. I can't remember exactly the order in which I can't go back and say which ones I like more, but I do definitely like it more when we've got more Pencilgon and Oikatsu in the series. I do know they show up. I did look at the next few chapters because those were still available for free, and I was thinking, okay, yeah, they show up again soon, so they're not gonna be like gone for too long. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the series goes after this. I from what I've heard, I think there is like some more playing of other games in it, so we'll see if that makes it more interesting or less interesting. On the whole, I thought it was a pretty fun show. I didn't really mind the fact that, as you could say, it's not Sword Art Online where when people die it's fine, because well, in a few cases it did manage to have some stakes. It was the case like when they go to Weathermon, it's sure, if they die, they don't die in real life or anything, but they still put so much preparation into it that this was their one shot to do it. And actually, it's interesting. I can't remember where I saw this or heard this, but someone mentioned it, and they said, "Well, yeah, you can say, well, that they were talking about Sword Art Online and saying, well, yeah, well, if you can die in the game, you die in real life. That doesn't necessarily make it more suspenseful, because it just makes it, that the characters, or at least the important ones, are going to make it."
Well, some of them.
Well, all the important ones were. They're like, who actually died in the first arc that was even remotely important? There was, I think every character who died was someone we met in that episode. I could be wrong, but I feel...
that was, no, there was that one, Sachi. There was a little arc with her wherever Kirito met her, and then they kind of got along and stuff, and then she died, and it was like a really depressing death. You remember that?
No, I remember that, but I thought that was all in one episode. Well, let me look it up. I can't. Was she introduced? Was she in a previous episode? Not like as like a brief cameo, but I mean as a kind of important thing. I can't remember if she was. Let me see on this again. What was her name again?
Sachi, Sachi.
Okay. I think, looking at least episode synopses, it looks like she... I'd want to double check, but I think it looks like she was introduced in one episode and then died in that same episode. Let me just check a little more on that. Okay, here we go. I can find out. I'll just go to the Sword Art Online wiki. The nice thing about these is that they usually say when a character first appeared. So let's see. Okay, first appearance, episode 3. Episode 3 is also the ones he died. So again, introduced in one episode, died in the same episode. Same thing that happened in the second episode, where there's that guy who, like kind of the leader, if I remember correctly, when they were fighting the boss, and then he died. So That was so. Unless I'm misremembering things, and it has been a while, I'm pretty sure everyone who died in the first arc of Sword Art Online did it in the exact same episode they first appeared.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. All right. Wow, I was not expecting us to talk that much about the series. Well, actually, we spent most of this not actually talking about the series. We talked about things adjacent to the series.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll see what happens for the next when the next season comes up, because that's a pretty packed season for us. Okay. All right. Moving on. A teen romantic comedy Snafu, episode 34. All right, so basically they continue with their plan. We'll make the fake prom, and that'll make them want to go to your real one. And after a whole bunch of conversations, they end up approving the actual one. So I guess it all worked out. And then there's a lot of conversations about things like it's always hard to describe the conversations in this show. Like, you say, oh, they're conversing, and it's about how Hachiman, does things and they work out, but he's a pessimist. All that kind of stuff. It's kind of hard to describe. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm saying. So, okay, I guess the prom is going to go forward.
Yeah, so you predicted last episode that his idea was going to end up winning out so at least there was a little bit of surprise there that the actual prom thing did work out. But even if that's true, I'm not exactly sure why they approved it. Like, there there's something I'm always missing with this show. There's something where I feel like, okay, I'm not getting the joke, or I'm not getting the point of it. Something is going on that I don't understand what's going on. So again, I had a really hard time figuring out, and in fact, I don't know why they approved her plan and not his and all that. It doesn't make any sense to me. I guess they're probably going to have prom in the show, or else, boy, that would be a really lame build up if they didn't ever have the prom. But then again, I know all about not having proms at my school. I feel like I'm missing something, and I don't know exactly what I'm missing. Do you kind of feel that way too?
I was kind of confused about how it worked out also, because if they had just suggested it and then they had gone and then they said, okay, I guess that works out, then that would have been fine. But there was a bunch of conversation about, oh no, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to change, solve the issues. I think maybe we were supposed to interpret that when Hachiman's talking to Yukino's mother, because she was sort of the liaison between them and the PTO, or the PTA, the group, or that PTO, parent teacher organization, I think. He mentions the fact that, oh yeah, I was the one who was hit by that car that your family was driving. So maybe the implication is supposed to be that because he mentioned that made her feel bad, so she kind of went to bat for them?
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
I had honestly completely forgotten about that plot point until now. Until they brought it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of a bit of a... It was a little confusing. I'm going to guess that is what was the implication, though. Okay.
Yeah. I just feel like I'm missing something, and I don't know what it is.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I don't have too much else to say about it, really. I I found the episode, I'll be honest, kind of a little boring, to be honest. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It felt like it was just people talking out things, and uh, yeah, I don't know what to say about it.
okay. All right, let's move on to a series that maybe we'll have more to talk about. So we've got Full Metal Panic: The Second Raid, episode 5.
Okay, so this is the episode where Mao ends up getting into a hotel room with this one guy who's a bad guy, and she's able to seduce him to the point where she's able to capture him. And then she gets out there with Weber, and they have a gunfight where they've got about 9 people shooting tons of bullets at them, and they've got a couple of bullets, and somehow they're able to escape, and they get into a car driven by Sosuke, and then this so ridiculous scene goes on where Kaname is yelling at Sosuke for not being there for his midterm exams, which it's just boggling how much this doesn't make any sense. But basically, they have a few weapons in the back of their car, and they're able to fight off the bad guys, and Sosuke's able to get them to safety. Meanwhile, that one evil guy who sung Ave Maria, he has some sort of evil plan, something to do with Kaname. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Tessa's has some problems going on too. Overall, this episode was bizarre, but actually fairly entertaining, even though it didn't make much sense. I thought it was pretty funny. It's but don't take it seriously, you know.
Yeah, it was weird for Kaname to be upset with Sosuke because, especially because when they're like at the start, it makes some sense. Okay, she's annoyed that he's not showing up, but then he mentions he's on a mission, and the thing is, at this point, Kaname knows that a lot of this stuff is actually really important. She was on the submarine. She's been like in multiple life or death situations with him. She would know, even if she would not necessarily know the current one is like super important right there. But it seems weird that she wouldn't like say, "Oh yeah, you're on a mission. Okay, that's important." Although, even if it didn't make that much sense, that he never explains, hey, we're kind of literally, like, all he has to do to make this conversation stop is saying, yes, well, I'm driving a car while people are shooting at us. Can I call you back? Actually, that would have been a really funny thing for him to say. Darn it, now I wish he had. That would have been a great joke. Anyway, so we've got that. But other than that, yeah, the episode, if you're willing to, I guess, look past some of those things, was entertaining. There's also the fact, again, it's weird that they're like, that Mao especially, literally, she's, shooting at them from the car, and she's standing up and making herself a super visible target. And apparently everything's fine. But Yeah, it was a lot entertaining. This, in some ways, did kind of remind me of the sort of thing Spy Family would do. Although, I think the way Spy Family would put it would be that whoever's driving the car, maybe it would be Lloyd or whatever, would have to be on the phone with someone who doesn't know what's actually going on. Would have to, have the conversation while driving and doing all that stuff. But
Right.
now, there's something I was wondering about, because they end up getting saved by someone in a giant robot, and they're saying, well, wait, who was that? And then they're told, well, that's top secret information. So, and we don't know. I assume that'll be revealed later. Now, I remember you mentioned something about how this season, you mentioned to me, I can't remember who was on the podcast, but you mentioned there was some new character who was kind of annoying in this season. Who have they shown up yet?
No.
Okay. Are they like the person who was in that suit?
I can't tell you because I can't remember.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, maybe it is. We'll find out, because we're already, how many episodes are we into the second raid now? Let's see. We're on, I know the total number of episodes, just not how many we are into this. Yeah, we got 5 episodes into this 13 episode season. So if there's an important character, that was probably them.
Well, they have to show up soon.
Okay. I'll also say that in regards to this being, I guess, more, because there was like a bunch of instances of like I mentioned how, like, wow, the previous episode had way stronger nudity in this season than the first one, which was probably why it was rated mature on Crunchyroll. But this episode, I was thinking, wow, there's a whole lot of F words being thrown around in this episode towards the end. That wasn't in the first season either.
Yeah. That I don't remember if I said the character was annoying as much as I just said I don't like the character. So
okay.
We'll find out whenever he shows up.
Okay. Oh, you spoiled whether it was a he or a she. Okay.
Actually, you have seen him, but you just don't know where.
Okay. Anyway, so that was this episode. Yeah, I maybe you did just say you didn't like the character. I just remembered you said it was something you disliked about this season. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, don't have anything else to say about it there. Wow, I'm just realizing I feel like because of the fact we don't have the Toonami things to discuss, it seems like we just have more to say about these series. Or in some cases, not necessarily having that much to say, but a lot of things about the series, but a lot of things to say during our discussion, which often are tangents.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got Dark Gathering episode 12. So, it turns out, no, Yayoi was not killed at the end of the previous episode. Whew, that's a relief. I will be fair, there was the twist that, I knew she wasn't going to die, but it turns out, no, that wasn't Yayoi at all. It was just like the ghost pretending to be her in order to try to trap Keitaro. Anyway, they managed to fight against the spirit, use a bunch of their own sort of spirits, including one where some that chants Buddhist sutras that will kill you if you hear it. Then they managed. So basically, they eventually find out that, oh, the spirit in this place that we're fighting, she's not actually evil. She just went crazy because of this weird sort of artifact. So they fix that up, and she goes back to normal, and it's all good. And then they're like, okay, well, I guess we've solved this issue then. So if we need your help, we'll call you, I guess. And yeah, that was basically the episode, except then it ends with let's see, yeah, Aiko, she's annoyed that she didn't get to go on. So then Yayoi suggests, all right, let's go on an even scarier one.
I want to make an admission that halfway through this episode, I finally realized that I mixed up Aiko's and Keitro's names. So I kept wondering why she was calling to Keitro, and like, isn't Keitro back at home? And then it finally hit me. I'm like, okay, yeah, I mixed their names up. So, yeah, I was really confused for half the episode until I remembered what their actual names were. I don't know how I got them mixed up, but I feel like my biggest problem with the show is that I've been so desensitized to scary things that nothing is remotely scary to me. So that kind of defeats the purpose of all of the dark scenes, because I'm just ready for anything at this point. So, and then it's like, we're going to go somewhere even scarier, but it's like nothing can scare me at this point, you know? It's kind of like I remember this horror movie I watched, the only horror movie I've ever watched, if you don't count Psycho, but it was a movie called Orphan. And the only reason why I watched it is because it had a girl who was in the Hunger Games, and this actress was in there. And every time it had this formula where every scene where you expected to get scared, nothing would happen. And then about 10 seconds later, something would come out of nowhere and, you know, be scary. But once you got deep into the movie, you could guess when that moment was going to come. You would know, okay, this moment, nothing's going to happen. And okay, then something's going to happen right about now. And you could guess it. And that's kind of how I feel with this. It feels like, you know, I can kind of guess what's going to happen. So, yeah, it's not as scary as it should be, to me at least, but who knows? Maybe if they go to this even scarier place, maybe they could finally scare me.
Okay, yeah, well, I don't really find it that scary either, but I'll be honest, I've never really found... It's a series that I don't really watch it to try to be scary. I just watch it because I think it's I mostly just kind of watch it, see it as an adventure series that has some horror elements. Maybe it's a bit more scary to some people, though. It just usually doesn't affect me that much. Works, let me think. Have I seen any horror movies? Yeah, I'm not sure if I have. You mentioned Psycho. I've seen Psycho, but I don't know if that counts. I saw Scream, but I don't know if that one counts, because that's kind of that's a horror movie, but it's a bit more like, you know, comedic than your regular one. So yeah, there's been some horror games I've played, but not movies offhand that I can remember. I probably did see some, and I just forgot all about them. Anyway, yeah, don't have anything else to say about that. I just thought it was, you know, it was an all right episode. Okay, we got Konosuba episode 23. So, Kazuma is staying at we find out basically that, yeah, Iris grabbed Kazuma because she wants to hear him talk more about the adventures he's gone on. And, you know, he spends some time there doing that. he's kind of ready to go, except she mentions that he reminds her of her older brother, and Kazuma becomes obsessed with hearing her refer to him as Big Brother, and therefore wants to stay longer. Eventually, while he's staying there, the other characters do show up to try to drag him away, but he still wants to stay there because, it's a pretty good life for him to have servants around and things. So he comes up with when he hears that there's someone going around stealing from corrupt nobles, he said, "I'm going to find the thief." So then basically they're going to be staying at the house of one of the possible targets, the who we saw before, but who was kind of a jerk. And yeah, that's our episode basically.
Yeah, so the first half of this episode was what I feared would happen, is that they take Kazuma away from the other three characters, and it was really, really boring, and it completely lost me whenever it came to any sort of entertainment. But then suddenly darkness shows up at the door, and then the other three characters are there. Now, to be honest, Aqua and Megumin really don't do much in this episode, but I felt like darkness at least provided enough humor to get me through to the finish line of this episode. Somehow that's what I really I don't remember the parts about Kazuma trying to catch a thief. I just remember Kazuma telling all these stories to the princess, and for Konosuba, it wasn't a very funny episode, and that's not a good thing.
I actually liked the first half of it. It didn't have the other characters, I'll admit, but I thought it had some funny things, especially with Kazuma being, being. It's funny because he really is just such a jerk about things. He's like, "This girl calls me Big Brother. I really want to stay now." So that was funny. Yeah, the other character showing up does get us some jokes from them, though. Yeah, I thought this was a pretty solid episode on the whole. Let's see. I was gonna say something. I will say really that one thing that I've become more appreciative for Konosuba. Now you haven't, after I don't really watch. So for a while, there was this time where I was like, I'm going to try to watch, at least one episode of each new series in an anime, and check them out. I was doing that mostly because I was just watching them Spanish subtitles, and the way to get me through a bunch of those to try to get better at the language and such. Mm-hmm. And once you do, and when you do that, you start getting really, really annoyed about all the overpowered isekai protagonists that are just, power trips. And just having a series with like Konosuba where Kazuma is everything but that is just such a relief. It's another reason why, especially after watching all those other ones, even if I usually dropped them after just an episode or two, made me also appreciate Re:Zero more. Like, oh, it's the character, and he gets transported to an alternate world. And he thinks, oh man, this is super awesome. I bet I get a super awesome ability like the characters he knows. And then he doesn't, and he gets horribly killed instead. I mean, he gets better, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I don't think I've watched all that many with overpowered main characters. I just can think of two, and I don't know. I guess you count Tanya the Evil. That I don't know if you consider that character overpowered or not. Um,
She
but
she kind of is as a character, but it does work a little better because despite her kind of overpoweredness, it keeps not getting her where she actually wants to be.
Mhm.
Basically,
Yeah, so that worked. Like Overlord, obviously, is the ultimate example of a show that being overpowered is not a good thing. Eminence and Shadow, on the other hand, I really enjoy him being overpowered because uh, he's always misunderstood by all of his followers, and it just keeps the joke going and going and going. So those are the two I can think of where isekai, where the main character is overpowered, and I've actually seen it. So yeah.
yeah, it's yeah. You haven't seen as many of those. Like, I like before. I always knew. Oh, there's all these isekai that are like that. Overlord definitely falls in that category, and it was an issue I had with it. But at least Overlord was sort of how do I say it exactly? It kind of it kind of did it to such an extent it's at least kind of worked. I mean, not for me, but I can see why a lot of other people liked it. It
Yeah,
like
you ranked that dead last that year, so you couldn't have liked it that much.
um was was it at the I don't have a list for that, but I know it was kind of low. Anyway, yeah, I didn't care for it, but I'm just saying I despite not liking it for that reason, I can see that of those kinds of series, it does it better. Whereas a lot of other ones were
Yeah.
just like, "Hey, I'm overpowered," that kind of stuff.
Oh, slime, definitely slime. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that that
forgot about that.
that was that kind of annoyed me there also. But even against slime, there was kind of some effort put into it. There's just so many kind of lazily done ones. Like let's see, I got a cheat skill in another world and became unrivaled in the real world too. Or let's see, what was it? Hang on, let me glance over some of these titles so I can actually list some examples.
Didn't I say to make my abilities average in the next life? Isn't that one?
That's one, but then at least from what is more of a comedy. It's about, as I
Mhm.
understand, it didn't. I did wasn't huge on it, but I also heard some people complain that the anime had a lot of like they changed a bunch of stuff, like they cut out things and they added filler and things. So yeah, we're not technically it's not necessarily overpowered as a problem. It's just you got to do it right. For example, like it's not an isekai, but the misfit of Demon King Academy, yeah, he's
Mhm.
overpowered, but like it goes to such an extent it works.
Mhm. Yeah.
For example, yeah, there's yeah, I want to give titles, but I can't remember them offhand because they all blur together, unfortunately. But yeah, so oh yeah, in another world with my smartphone. I never watched that one, but I definitely heard about that was kind of a case of that. Yeah, oh, the aristocrats' otherworldly adventure, serving gods who go too far. That was another one of those. Oh yeah, let's see. Just glancing over all the series in some of these, some summoned to another world for a second time, which actually had a kind of interesting premise of someone going back to a world where they were previously isekai'd and then didn't do anything interesting with it.
Mhm.
Am I actually the strongest? All these sorts of things. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, we were talking. Wow, we went off on another tangent. Back to Dark Gathering. A comment I forgot to make. The part where Yayoi is where they're digging the thing, and Yayoi just has these random pom poms for some reason.
Yeah.
That was funny. And it also makes you.
I thought those were those things that ward off evil spirits.
Oh, maybe it was. In that case, I don't know if it made. Well, she was using them like pom poms. So
Yeah, but those are the things that I've seen in stuff where they use those to ward off evil spirits, like in Pocky and Rocky and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. Then then it's that. All right. That actually makes I don't know if that makes it more funny or less funny because it makes it make more sense, but it also which makes it a little less funny, but also because it makes more sense and it's a usage of that, it makes it kind of more so it's kind of more and less funny at the same time. I don't know how it all ends up working out in regards to that. Okay, so that's. Oh wait, we were talking about Konosuba. We had already finished with Dark Gathering. We went on such a tangent. I forgot what series we were talking about.
And
okay,
what are we on now?
We were finishing up. We were talking about Konosuba. We end up going on a tangent.
Kaiju.
I think that's everything I had to say about Konosuba. Did you have anything?
No, that's pretty much about it. If you want to read more, visit my blog. So,
okay. Maybe you should give the URL.
Oh yeah, TommyAPhillips.com. Hopefully, I'll come up with a better domain name soon, but that's what I got right now.
Okay. So we've got that. Then we move on to the still technically on a test run series for the podcast. We've got Kaiju number 8, episode 2. So Kafka got turned into a kaiju, a small one. The other then someone spots them, so he and Reno basically have to run off. They end up managing to apparently get away, but he, of course, it's a shonen series and he's the hero, so he has to decide, I'm going to go and fight because some other bad kaiju show up. So he goes and help and beats pretty quickly kaiju that was about to kill this girl. And then it turns out, well, fortunately for the plot, he has the ability to turn back into normal as a human. Then it skips forward a few months. They're going to go and take the test to try to join the Kaiju Defense Forces. They meet this girl who let's see, she's annoyed that she wanted to park in their spot because of the number, and they're not interested. So she uses some sort of apparent suit to lift up their car and throw it over to the side to their annoyance. And it's funny, her name, Kikoru Shinomiya. And it's funny when Reno's just thinking, Shinomiya. And I'm thinking, oh, is she like related to Kaguya then? Sorry, wrong series. But it is funny that he reacts to it. And since we don't know what it is yet, the immediate reaction is, oh, so is this a Kaguya reference? Anyway, yep, that's our episode.
Okay, so I started reading the manga of this thanks to that site you were talking about.
Manga Plus.
That app. Which one?
Manga Plus.
Yeah, Manga Plus. Yeah, so I started reading the manga to this, but I thought it was just a little way too convenient for him to just be able to turn back into a human anytime he wanted, because that I thought I was expecting some big showdown, and I guess I was misled by the show for that. So I was hoping it would be him against his sister, Instead, we don't get that. That's his sister, right? Isn't it? Mina?
Mina's just his friend. He knew they were friends when they were kids.
Oh, so they're not even sister and brother.
No.
They're just two random people who happen to sit there and cry over the kaiju, and then, wow. Okay, so I was mistaken. That's not his sister. That's just a person.
Well,
And,
they were childhood friends, obviously, and knew each other pretty well.
So basically, they're Aaron and Mikasa, right?
Well, she's not quite as, I guess, stalkery as Mikasa was.
and now, see, I couldn't remember Kafka's name because every time that guy talks to him, he always calls him Sir, and he doesn't say that in the manga at all, but he's always calls him Sir in the anime, and because of that, I couldn't think of what his name was. So, yeah, so that kid, he's the new Armin Arlert, and we have our Annie character as well now. So congratulations, we have made it to Attack on Titan territory. So I just now I'm confused as to where the romance is going to be, because I was like, okay, clearly this girl who shows up at the end is going to be the love interest, but now I'm not so sure.
Well, they're separate. He's pretty a lot older than her though, so no romance there so far. I mean, you never know.
Not.
A series might always pull what the manga Usagi Drop infamously did, where it's this. Okay, I'll just go into it. I might as well explain because it's kind of notorious for this. It's always what people refer to in this. So it's this series, and it's about this guy who ends up taking care of this girl who's pretty young. I can't remember exactly what their ages were. Anyway, so. And it's kind of like this heartwarming story about this guy raising this this daughter that isn't his, and that's where the anime ends when it's still on that point. Then in the manga, it skips forward to when she's in high school and she decides that she's in love with him, and then they get together later on at the end of the series.
Oh, so it's Rin and Susumaru.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's some differences there, but I could see. But yeah, you could say it's a little like that in some ways. I don't think it's. I think it would be. It's usually considered kind of worse. And although, I mean, if you want to get technical about it, it's the age gap between Inuyasha and Kagome is about as big.
Yeah, but okay. Though, I just gonna say I have never been on board with the Rin Susumaru thing, and it's gotten me in trouble. People really get mad whenever you say that. So, yeah, I am not on board with Rin and Susumaru together.
I don't really like it either. I don't think it bothers me as much as it does for some. I don't know exactly why. But it's but it is a little yeah, it's kind of, it's pretty weird still, but I guess they wanted to have Susumaru have kids, and they were like, okay, well, are there any other potential love interests for him?
There was one in the anime, but I think it was a filler episode.
Okay.
The Woman Who Loves Susumaru. There was an episode called that, wasn't there? Woman Who Loved Susumaru. Yep, there was episode 134. Probably filler. Let's see. Was it filler? Was it filler? Well, why won't they tell me if it's filler or not? It's a 1 hour special. I don't know if it was filler or not, but I think it was filler. So
I'm trying to look it up. Unfortunately, because my internet's going really slowly, because once again I'm doing all this on a hotspot. My phone's hotspot. Okay, I've got it on anime filler list. What episode number did you say it was? Okay, the
134.
Yeah, the woman who loves Shomru, episodes 133 and 134. They're listed as filler.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
Okay.
that's why he couldn't get together with that woman.
Anyway, so I did want to make a few comments on the episode. There's a part where Kikoru tells Kafka, and if you have any trouble remembering his name, I'm almost certain that his name comes from Franz Kafka, the author of the book Metamorphosis, which is about this guy who just turns into this giant bug, and Kafka can turn into a kaiju. So I guess it's supposed to be a reference to that. Anyway,
Never heard of him.
Oh, okay. I mostly just remember it from this the comic strip Foxtrot. There's this bit where Peter is having to read the book for school, and Jason thinks it's really the idea of he thinks the idea of just turning into a giant bug is really cool. So he's saying, "Well, what cause is it?" And Peter says, "I don't know. He just wakes up like that one day." And Jason says, "I decides that he needs to try to take more naps in the hopes that he'll wake up as a giant bug." And except then he gets really annoyed because he wakes up as this miniature version of his sister instead. It all turns out to be a dream, but it's Foxtrot. That was a funny comic strip. Anyway, as I was saying, here there's a part where she tells him he's old, and he says, "I'm not old." And she said, "You're 32. That's old." And I'm thinking, oh no, that makes me feel old. It's like, remember that, I don't know if they announced, I didn't read too much of it because not too much of it had really been translated by anyone, but there's a Lucky Star spinoff that just focuses on the cast like 20 years in the future when they're in their early 30s. I read a little of that. It's, there's only a little bit available because I was curious. If you're wondering about, oh man, so do they have families or anything? Well, it didn't tell me or anything. It's just them having conversations about things like they did on the show, except they're adults. And there's this literal part where Konada just says, it's really weird to realize that you're older than Misato on Evangelion. Anyway. So yeah. So I thought this was a kind of funny episode. I'll give. There's one thing. This is one of the very few times I've actually seen a pee joke that was funny. It was actually funny. Do you know how rare that is?
I didn't find it funny, not because I was grossed out, just because I just didn't find it funny. But I can see what you mean.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't super funny, but it was just it's a joke on something that's almost never works, and it actually did kind of work here, so I'm okay with it. Anyway, yeah, so that's Kaiju number 8, episode 2. We'll see how things go for the next episode. Decide if we keep it. Let's see, did I have any other things to say? Nope, I think that's it for that series then.
Okay.
So, shall we give rankings for them?
Yeah. Third place this week will be Shangri-La Frontier. And then the surprises begin because second place, despite everything I said about it, was Konosuba. Darkness saved the day and got it a second place finish. But the top episode of this week was Kaiju number 8.
Okay, so for me, that was. Hang on one sec. What was your order again?
Kaiju number 1, Konosuba number 2, Shangri-La Frontier number 3.
Okay, so that. Well, unlike I was asking that because I was thinking I was just checking. No, unlike last week, we do not have the exact same order. Though I also admit that that part of that might be the fact you said that you don't want to be ranking Full Metal Panic on it because you've already seen it. Maybe.
Yeah, not till season 4.
Okay. Well, for me, my order then would be. Let me just look at these quickly. Okay, yeah, I'll put Full Metal Panic in third place. Kaiju number 8 in second, and Konosuba in first.
Okay.
Okay, and
Yeah, we went on longer, but maybe we're able to dupe people into believing that we covered Toonami this week by the length of the episode.
I just can't believe how many tangents we ended up going on. Maybe it's because of the room I'm in. Maybe because I'm recording this in a different room, it's affecting my mental state somehow to make me go on more tangents. All right. Any exciting news or things to talk about?
Well, I saw the next to last episode of the Cowboy Bebop live action disaster, and boy, okay, so Jet Black doesn't appear, so that's strike one, and it's basically a origin story about Spike and Vicious, and basically it turns Spike into a serial murderer that he kills for thrill. Like, where the hell did they come up with this stuff about Spike Spiegel being like this animal who just kills people? Even a woman who's running off with her daughter, he just shoots her. Like, maybe it wasn't the woman with the daughter. Maybe she didn't have a daughter, but he still shot this woman just for the heck of it. And I'm like, where did they find this Spike Spiegel from? Like, just because it makes him look cooler somehow that he kills people for thrills? I don't get it. So that's strike two. And then you have this whole thing where Vicious falls in love with Julia. Okay, I get that much. But Julia then falls in love with Spike, and then Spike decides to leave, and yeah, it doesn't really make much sense. And all that is going to lead up into the final episode where I assume, hopefully, they resolve this, because if not, well, too bad. I hope it gets resolved somehow, even if the series is canceled, which it is. But hopefully it resolves things, because if it doesn't, then boy, is it going to leave a bad taste in my mouth. But yeah, I thought the show was actually improving during this episode, and then it had that bizarre scene where Spike just goes into this place and just starts shooting up everyone. And I don't know. I really don't know. I can't believe I put myself through this, but I'm one episode away, so I have to finish it.
Now, I want to clarify, when you're talking about him shooting people and stuff, was this a flashback or was this in the present?
It was a flashback.
Okay. Well, in the original series, didn't he like work for like some sort of organized crime thing in his backstory? Like that's how he like that. Now I can't remember the specifics, but I do remember he did that. So like I assume he would have done a lot more killing of like more innocent people back then. Is that what this was showing or?
Yeah, I guess so. I just never had him come across as this serial killer because he always in the show he never really was trigger happy in the show itself. So you could be right there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't remember the specifics. Like maybe even in his backstory in the show, this would have been over the top. But I just remember as I remember it, it has been like so long since I saw the series. But I seem to remember he definitely had a more dark past than what we see in the show. But I can't remember how much darker. Okay, all right.
I also saw a movie this week. Not sure if it has anything to do with the podcast, but I went to a theater to see an older movie called Castle in the Sky, and while entertaining, I did fall asleep halfway through it, so that's probably not a ringing endorsement of the movie. I thought it was pretty good, but again, I fell asleep. So how can it be that good if I fell asleep during it? That's always been my rationalization in not liking the Lord of the Rings movies, because all three of them I fell asleep while watching. So all three of the original ones, not the Hobbit ones. I never bothered with the Hobbit ones. But
The Hobbit,
yeah.
The Hobbits would have made a pretty good, I think, 2 movies, but they turned it into a trilogy, which resulted in everything being way too padded.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty good. It felt like the whole movie was running away and running away and running away and running away until finally, the big showdown happens and then, things get resolved. But it just felt too much to me like the main characters were always running from something. And that's kind of where I fell asleep, and then I woke up and things were getting resolved. So, yeah. I unfortunately am not a Ghibli guy. I'm not a Miyazaki guy. We covered that one movie. What was it called? Nausicaa?
Yeah.
We covered that a long time ago. I don't even know if it was on this podcast or our previous podcast, but we covered that, and I wasn't a big fan of that. So maybe I'm just not a Ghibli guy. So I did like The Cat Returns, but I did like Kiki's Delivery Service. So who knows? Yeah.
Yes,
that's all I got.
We did do it on the podcast. We did it almost exactly 3 years ago. We watched it. Yeah, we watched it on May 28th of 2021. That episode, and it's May 23rd now. So almost exactly 3 years. I meant to go and look at the manga because it kind of continued the story. Well, the movie, as I understand, is kind of an adaptation of the early stuff in the manga. There's some actually I think the movie might have come first. I can't remember. But the manga, the beginning is pretty similar to the movie, and then it continues on and resolves some things that the movie didn't. So, okay. So, yeah, we did see that a while ago. I can't remember too much what we thought. I think we both thought it was decent, but not amazing.
Yeah, that was kind of what I took away from it.
All right. So I guess I might as well. I was going to say something. I wanted. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about that you watched before I get into what I watched?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to mention that I did finish a series. Well, the first season. There might be more. Actually, I finished it 2 weeks ago, but we kind of were going long last episode, so I kind of held off on it, and we're still going long this episode, but whatever. It was this series called Dr. Elise, which they give the full name of for some reason, Dr. Elise, the Royal Lady with the Lamp, and just nope, we don't see any lamp in this series. Apparently, it comes in later in the story, because this is based on a manhwa. Basically, the premise is that there's this person, where Elise, because she was the empress and she was really bad, and people kind of overthrew her and she was executed, and then, well, unlike Tier Moon Empire, she doesn't get directly zapped back like 6 years. Instead, she gets reversed isekai into our world, and decides, I'm going to do things better, and I'll become a surgeon and help people. And then gets killed in a plane crash and gets isekai back into her own world and goes back to earlier in her life. So it is kind of like Tier Moon Empire. If me, instead of going directly back in time, just spent some time on Earth before going back in time.
Double isekai?
It's, yeah, kind of like... Yeah, she gets isekai'd here, then gets isekai'd back. And it's age regression on top of that.
So, this is basically Tier Moon Empire.
Kind of, although that series had Mia go, at least in premise, directly back in time. This actually involved like isekai'ing to our world, learning a bunch of medical and surgery stuff, then coming back here, and then she decides, I'm not going to, do all that again. I'm just going to be a doctor this time. And then tries to do that, except then there's also a bunch of political things that happen, but it mostly does kind of focus on the medical stuff. And of course, because she's basically... The technology level of this world is a little unclear. I saw a bunch of people comment. They're saying, wait, so they have defibrillators, but no one's performed a splenectomy yet? And I'm okay with that, because you can say, all right, technology can go at different rates, even in specific medicine fields, at different rates in different alternate histories. Apparently, there's also some sort of explanation in the source material the anime did get into, which was in the past some previous person also got double isekai'd and brought in a bunch of modern knowledge. Anyway, so what I think of the series, it's weird, because when you look at it objectively, this is kind of just your overpowered isekai thing. It's just, except instead of, being able to beat up people super great, it's just that she's the most brilliant doctor ever. Because, if you were to go back 150 years, you'd know a lot more than people then. Actually, it's a pretty good thing for her she decided to become a surgeon, because, imagine, getting sent back to the 19th century when you were, the world's greatest radiologist. Anyway, so there is a lot of that. In her just being the most gosh darn amazing surgeon ever, and a total genius who's better than everyone. And it is kind of like that. I mean, there is a bit more of a plot to that, but it is kind of like that. I definitely see some criticism she's a Mary Sue. She kind of is. She is a little overly perfect. I'm putting in this criticism, but I still did enjoy the series. I got to the end, but it definitely it definitely does kind of have some issues there, but I enjoyed it. I got interested because of the premise, but I did see a bunch of people saying that this kind of did some. It apparently skipped over a bunch of things. There's apparently a lot more sort of political things going on in it that this kind of skipped over, but people said, well, this is stuff that they could just move and have happening in the second season. So, yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it's not like an amazing show or anything. I did see a lot of people say this original manhwa was better. Speaking of which, I want to mention something. If you want to check out the show, my suggestion is don't watch the first episode. Go and look up the manhwa. You can read the first chapter for free on the site called TappyToon. It is a little annoying because if you want to read like most of the chapters, you have to buy them individually. But the first chapter is right now free. You don't even need to make an account for it. Read that, then move to the second episode, because the first episode is just a way more bloated version of that first chapter. They add in a bunch of stuff that does not seem important at all. Maybe it's stuff that pays off later in the story, like how Eminence and Shadow's first episode was basically something from the fourth volume, but happened first chronologically, so they decided to put it there. So that would be my suggestion. Just save yourself half an hour. Just read the first chapter, then move on to the second episode, so you don't have to go through a bunch of like excessive padding. For all I know, maybe the rest of the series has a bunch of padding, but that first episode definitely had a bunch. So there you go. I don't know if that was useful or not. I am curious to see what might happen in the second season. So it did some work for me, but at the same time, it wasn't a series I can like enthusiastically recommend. It was just one that I did get some enjoyment out of.
Okay.
And yeah, I'd be interested in like I'm reading the source material maybe at some point, but since I finished it, I thought I might as well mention it. Anyway, we have been going on for a long time, so we should probably be closing off the series, our podcast now. Okay. All right, I think that's everything. We'll see you next week to discuss more things. We'll be making... So basically for next week, well, we'll be watching the... let's see. Yeah, we'll be checking out the stuff on Toonami, or we'll at least be checking out One Piece that airs this week. The Toonami Rewind we won't be covering. We'll be recording before then, most likely. And we're done with Shangri-La Frontier for now, so we've just got Snafu, Full Metal Panic, Dark Gathering, Konosuba, and Kaiju number 8 to watch for those people who follow along with us. I don't know if anyone actually watches along with us. If you do, congratulations. All right, I think that's everything. And without further ado, we won't take up any more of your time with our rambling, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Toonami Therapy. Today on May 30th of 2024, I'm Michael.
Yeah, hello, I'm Tommy.
And this is our podcast, Toonami Therapy, where we talk about anime and other things, and sometimes things that air on Toonami as well. Maybe it would be more accurate to change it to like something else, like, well, I don't know. If I had a good idea for a replacement, maybe I would already use it, but we've got brand recognition, sort of. So, we've gotten all of that, so... Actually, I don't even know. I said all of that. What was that? I just said that, and I don't even know what I was talking about. Anyway. Yeah, okay. So, in terms of things, well, we didn't have that much Toonami this week. They had a double episode of the premiere of Season 2 of My Adventures with Superman, and then we also had One Piece, and then they had Naruto, but we didn't really watch Naruto, sorry, we usually don't. So let's, I guess, talk about the things we did watch. Because we did tune in to watch My Adventures with Superman, episodes 11 and 12. We're on season 2. So basically, what do we how do I explain this well? Okay, so they end up, because they're trying to find information about, Clark's, I don't know if you can really call it backstory, his home world, that's it. They end up finding a sort of spaceship that has some information, and he's able to actually for once talk to his father because the hologram, because before, all he talked was, in the language we didn't know, but thanks to the power of, I don't know, whatever, them figuring out the language somehow, they're able to communicate, and he basically fills him in with the usual backstory of Superman, Krypton was going to be destroyed, so we sent you off to Earth, and in a tweak from normal, they did set up this one to say that apparently the Kryptonians had actually were kind of like made sort of. They were apparently kind of like more warriors and attacking places, and thus the planet being destroyed was the other people fighting back against them, which was an interesting change. But anyway, so we get through all of that. The big thing is that he finds out that, actually his cousin apparently made it to Earth, so I guess they have to find her. And also, because it would be too convenient to have a hologram of his father around all the time, due to plot reasons, that gets destroyed. Lois's father, the general guy, in our second episode, was captured by the Task Force X, so they basically go and rescue him and manage to get him out. He ends up he's going to stay with Clark and Jimmy for hijinks, I guess. It really feels like it's just an excuse to try to make a bunch of, how do you say, of Clark trying to keep his identity secret from him more difficult.
Yeah.
And then we find out, I guess there is a Lex Luthor in this series, except he, looks very different from the original one. But hey, you can always make changes. The Lex Luthor we know was actually his original iteration, he was just a sort of mad scientist who went out and committed crimes, and then a writer, this was basically, the jokes people make about how, look, if the super villain is so smart, he can make a machine to control the weather, why doesn't he just make money off of that instead of trying to use it in some crazy plan to take over the world? And literally one of the comic book writers basically just said, it didn't really make sense that he'd have all of these smarts and money and he'd just do petty crimes with it. So when we kind of did a reboot of the universe, I think this was after Crisis on Infinite Earth, we just kind of reimagined him as being like a corrupt businessman. So this one is a different version, apparently a younger one, but then again, I guess the other characters are younger compared to how they usually are, so it works out. Anyway, he joins up with Amanda Waller of Task Force X, apparently, and that was our episodes.
Yeah. I thought they were actually pretty good.
Yeah, I liked the first season more than you did, but I do think it had some definite flaws. I'll just say it one more time. When it was lighthearted, it was usually pretty good. When it was more serious, it was usually not very good. This went more for the serious, but it managed to work pretty well, partially because they managed to, I think, keep up some kind of funny jokes and stuff in it as well. I was so certain that when Clark is saying, I want to, it's Valentine's Day, I want to, have this kind of simple date with Lois, and everyone's saying, no, you need to do something really complicated. And I'm thinking, okay, so the whole episode is going to be about him trying to, do something complicated and it backfiring. And then she tells him that she didn't want that. It would have been fine to be simple. And nope, they just make a few jokes off of that, and then it just moves on. And I'm like, I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Yeah.
So this was off to a pretty decent start. We probably will keep going on with this then if it stays like this. I do wonder if Lois's father, what was even his name? The problem is they either call her like Lois's father or the General, so I don't know what his name was. I don't know. Whatever his name is, I'm going to just guess right now because he's like, he seems annoyed that Clark, just wasn't helping Lois with this stuff. I would like it if it reveals that already he has either figured out or strongly suspects that Clark was Superman. Funny thing, I thought he already did know. But I guess it wasn't explicitly said to him. So I would like to see it revealed that he's just kind of playing dumb right now and he actually does, has figured things out. So, all right. Anyway, I guess anything else to say about it?
No.
Okay. All right. So we don't have any Zom 100. So instead we'll have One Piece episode 668. So basically this episode is mostly a bunch of people fighting in the arena and none of them are the main characters. So so there's not really too much reason to care. Other than that, there's some stuff about the other characters trying to get into like the place to do the thing. I can't. They were trying to free the toys or something like that. I can't remember the specifics, but it was something like that. And that was basically our episode.
Yeah, the thing about this is that it just felt like the plot didn't advance at all this episode. It just felt like, okay, here's introduction of this character, and then a little bit about Luffy trying to get inside that place, and that was it. And it was like, man, not much happened. And you said it first, though. I'm not going to take credit for it. You said it first. So
I said it to you, not on the podcast. I think.
Yeah.
Just in case anyone was confused. Yeah, we haven't used, that was kind of a phrase we used to use a lot. Then we kind of fell off of it, but this was definitely the case. This was an episode where not much happened. Now, let me see. Yeah, and it looked like this was episodes 2 to 15 of one of the chapters. So it was most of a chapter. But it still wasn't even a full chapter, so that would explain, I guess, some of the padding.
Your audio's cutting out on me. I'm not sure.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay right now?
Yeah, right now I can. It just was. It was like cutting out a little bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just.
Maybe I need to.
It was,
no.
Yeah, it was.
No, that's good to know if that's the case. All right. If that happens again, I might try to move to a different room or maybe restart the modem or something. Okay. Tell me if it happens again, and I'll try to fix it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's see. What was I... So yeah, I didn't really have too much else to say about it. It was just, hey, we're going to fight. All right. Except none of them are the important characters, so...
Yep. Yeah, kind of a useless episode, really.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now that we've got through that, we don't have anything else to talk about on Toonami, so we'll move on to our shows we watch that aren't. Got my teen romantic comedy Snafu, episode 35. So, let's see. So basically, Hachiman tells Yui, hey, I will give you a wish within my abilities. And then she's like, well, she just lists a bunch of stuff and, I guess it's kind of played off as a joke. Then, they're still going to do the prom, and then we have the graduation ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah. So this whole thing, granting someone's wish, made no sense at all, because it starts out, it was like, okay, Yukino wins, so he has to grant Yukino's wish. Yukino's wish is for Yui to get her wish granted. And what's one of the wishes Yui wants to get granted is for one of Hachiman's wishes to grant it. So it's just bizarre. I kind of lost count of whose wish was what, and I don't understand why they just say, "Oh yeah, just come help make a cake with me." Like, what's so hard about that? You know, like, like instead of saying, "I want your wish to be that I grant your wish," that doesn't make any sense. And we get a little bit of cake making, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was much happier with. Sorry about that. I was much happier with the whole prom plot. At least there was something to that. This just did not seem very useful at all. So yeah, not a very good episode.
Yeah. Actually, I did skip over the fact that they did go and do the cooking thing. That was the wish, I think. So, but yeah, this was
Yeah.
an episode where I feel I said about One Piece, but it did just kind of feel like, huh, not much happened in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, it was different than the One Piece, where One Piece it just kind of felt like there wasn't things that happened. Stuff happened here, it just didn't feel like any of it mattered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Unfortunately.
we've only got 3 episodes left of this series, so we'll see if
Wow.
we'll see when we get when we get into the more romantic comedy that the series has been. I mean, there's been a few bits, but for the most part, yeah, this isn't that much. I mean, I guess that's why it's called the snafu, because it's not doing a great job being a teen romantic comedy.
You know, there's people online who swear by this series, and I like it. I just do not understand. Like, they always seem to be speaking a different language than me. Like, I can't quite understand what the characters are saying. Not literally, just figuratively. It's like there's something that's missing. And I don't understand why everyone hates Yui. I don't understand why everyone likes Yukino. I don't get it. There's something I'm missing. I feel like I've missed like half the episodes of the show, but I haven't, and I just do not understand it. I feel like maybe if I read it, I assume there's a manga to it. Maybe that's where everything is, and I'd have to read it there. If so, that will have to go onto my manga reading list. So yeah.
It is so the series, it was based on a light novel. There is a manga adaptation. There are usually manga adaptation. Usually if there's a light novel that becomes an anime, usually there is some manga adaptation also. I'm looking at it. I don't know how thoroughly they adapt the light novels, though. I'm looking on like Wikipedia. There's a light novel. There were 14 volumes and 4 short story select collections. There's a manga. There's one, My Teen Romantic Comedy is Wrong as I Expected monologue, which ran for 22 volumes, which is a lot. Then there's My Teen Romantic Comedy is Wrong as I Expected at comic. Literally, there's an at symbol in there, and then comic, which is also 22 volumes, although it looks like it ran at about the same time, so I don't think that's necessarily continuation. I don't know. So I don't know how far the manga actually goes into it. But yeah, there's the light novel. That's the original source material, and there is a manga. That's the thing. Sometimes the mangas don't. A lot of times it's funny when an anime comes out and you're like, oh, this is cool. I'd like to see the source material. But maybe you're more of a visual person. You'd rather read the manga than the light novel. The problem is usually by that point, the anime is actually ahead of where the manga is.
Yeah.
Because they can usually go through the stuff faster. Not always. Sometimes it's different. But yeah, that is the case. So yeah, maybe it's a thing in the source material. Going through, because this is 3, as I understand, this goes through the whole the whole light novel series. But the light novel series is actually, hang on, let me just double check something here. That's interesting. I'm seeing that the anime ended before the last light novel was out, but maybe the last light novel was, let me see. Oh, okay. The last light novel that came out was in 2021. It's listed as 14.5. So whenever they do a 0.5, that's usually like, side stuff or, extra things. The light novel, the actual end of it, volume 14, came out in 2019. The anime, the third season, ended in 2020. So that should be, I think it does adapt the whole thing.
So 3 episodes from now, we will have seen the whole thing.
I believe so. I'd have to double check a little into some of that, but that is what it sounds like. Well, hang on. There's an easy way. There's often a way to see it. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see. All I have to do is find the last light novel and just look at what the synopsis for it is and see, okay, do we know this stuff yet? Okay, light novel. Wait, is this a light novel or is this the manga that I'm looking at? That's the problem when there's a manga and a light novel and you try to look up the books, you keep getting them mixed up. I don't know. I'll have to look into this a little later, maybe. But basically, that's the thing going on. I don't know what I meant by that. Sorry. Sometimes my mouth goes before my brain thinks. Anyway, so that's our babbling about that. But I am a little confused. Curious. You mentioned that a lot of people really dislike Yui. You said you don't know, but do you mean you don't know as in like they don't explain it, or you don't know as in they do explain it, but you don't really understand like the reasons they give?
I just don't understand. I just don't understand why they don't like her. They say certain things about her, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't remember those things ever happening, but yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see when we get to the ending. All right.
Yeah.
After that, we move on to Full Metal Panic, second raid, episode 6.
Okay. Kaname cuts Sosuke's hair, and that's the episode. Really, there was a torture scene, which always is pleasant, where instead of the bad guys torturing someone, it was actually Mithril torturing the guy. And as Captain Picard once said, torture is never a reliable means of gathering information. It is ultimately self-defeating as a means of control. And I'm not sure this torture really helped them find anything out. We find out that the bad guy, those 2 girls steal robots, and he's not too happy about that. And then we have half the episode of just Kaname cutting Sosuke's hair, and you keep expecting something big to happen, but nothing happens. And then they just leave. And then at the very, 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 very tail end of the episode, Sosuke gets a message that says that he's got to quit guarding Kaname, which I'm sure is a great idea. So I'm sure that's a really great idea that they came up with there. And that's where the episode ends.
Yeah, that was kind of... Yeah, you're right. A whole lot of it was just her cutting his hair.
Mm-hmm.
Although the bit where he's getting his hair cut but then he gets so like paranoid about about how someone might take advantage, that he ends up pointing a gun at the hairdresser guy. That was kind of funny. That was like something you'd see in Snafu.
Yeah.
No, not Snafu. Fumofu.
Yeah, Fumofu.
The other thing that ends in fu. Okay. Yeah, so that was kind of amusing. Yeah, it does seem a little weird that, I mean, I guess I can see the reason for them doing it, but at the same time I'm thinking, if they're so worried about her safety, why shouldn't they have someone actually like constantly with her to keep an eye on her or something? Like, Kososuke's not with her all the time. Someone could totally, like, it seems, go over and try to abduct her at some while he's not there. Now, they do have another person who we don't know anything about, who apparently is also keeping an eye on her. But it just does seem like, if that's the thing, maybe they should be having someone like, be some sort of living bodyguard maybe or something. But I don't know. Fortunately, I kind of feel like I watched this episode, but I'm not sure if there's that much to say. It was just kind of a straightforward episode. I guess the biggest thing is that those two girls or women I can't remember how old they were supposed to be. Yeah, they steal the robots, and like the weird evil guy is annoyed by it. Also, he's naked in that scene for some reason. I don't
still yeah.
I mean,
still haven't seen the character who I've been talking about. That character is not sewn up yet.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't have anything else. Yeah, I thought it was decent. Just don't have too much else to really say about it. Okay. So then we got Dark Gathering, episode 13. So basically they decide, all right, we're going to go to another place. But along the way, first we have to go pick up this really powerful spirit. Then they end up, then that ends up being its own thing where they have to get it, because it's what was the explanation they gave? It was a spirit of someone who was killed in the war, and the spirit is being attacked by other soldiers in the war. Then they're able to protect it from that, and Yayoi was able to get it to help her by saying she'd let it go to the afterlife somehow. I can't remember. The point is, there's a bunch of that stuff. They all nearly get killed again, but they managed to get it. And then, of course, they're told, yeah, this was the easier part. So, yeah, the episode kind of felt mostly like setup for the next one.
Yeah. We got a couple of let's goes in this episode.
Yeah. Fortunately, I feel like I have less to say about this one, because I honestly forgot most of it, because I think it was mostly just set up for what they're actually going to next.
Yeah. Kind of felt the same way, but I don't think it was a total waste of an episode. I thought there was some amusing scenes in it. So,
not a waste, just not that much to really say. I mean, I can't say not much happened, because things did happen. It's just a matter of, did we need all of this to happen? They could have just gotten the ghost more quickly and gone forward. Okay. All right. So then after that, we have Konosuba episode 24. So they base our characters stay at the noble guy's mansion to try to look for keep an eye out for the thief. They end up annoying the heck out of him for both justified and unjustified reasons. Ultimately, Kazuma does catch the thief, which turns out to be Chris, who we have not seen her for a while, I don't think. Like, to the point that you're like, oh yeah, you could be forgiven for forgetting who this character even was, even though everyone, they just address her like she's really well known.
Yeah.
Anyway, So she explains to Kazuma that she's just trying to get these divine treasure things back, which Kazuma is not at all. He doesn't even want to know. She's like, no, he's saying, I don't want to get involved with this. So he lets her go and basically tells people, oh, I met the thief, but I was not able to stop them. So he loses some face for that, but they're all going to head home after that. Chris shows up and again tries to tell Kazuma stuff, and Kazuma is still just not interested at all in any of it. But then we are going to find out that yes, there's but then the Demon King's army attacks and everyone has to go and try to fight it.
Yeah, and Aqua doesn't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And Megumin really wants to go. So Darkness is forced to pull between the two of them and trying to get them to go. And then they're making so much noise that they wake up Kazuma, and then he finally decides he's going to go. So then the three of them are going, and Darkness is dragging Aqua. So, yeah, a lot of funny things in this episode. This is a really funny episode. I really enjoyed it, as you may have read, but yeah, I feel like Megumin was pretty funny in this episode, even though, you know, I still like Darkness the best, but Megumin had a pretty good episode, and this show is always better whenever it features the main characters, not like this Iris and these other people. But I actually did forget who that Chris was. I was like, is that Aqua in disguise? I was so confused. So, yeah, I'd forgotten about that character.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a while since we've seen it, but I just don't remember her doing that much. Now maybe she did, and I'm forgetting it. I remember she was the one who taught the steel thing to Kazuma. There's some other things there, but I don't remember her doing that much. I'm wondering if this is if she like got more attention in the light novels and a bunch of things were skipped over. Yeah, you look at the Wikipedia episode synopses. Now, these are kind of short ones. They're only a few sentences each episode. But if you do search for Chris, it'll mention her in the third episode of the first season. Doesn't show up at all for the second. Does show up several more times in the third season because, well, she showed up. But yeah, it's just a little like she has not done anything for a while, so it's a little so I'm left wondering if maybe she had a bigger part in the light novels that the anime kind of minimized, and now all of a sudden she's important. And I wonder if a bunch of viewers would be thinking, oh, I don't know anything about who was she again? I remembered who she was mostly because I had been spoiled on something about her, so that made me remember her better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's some good jokes. There's a bit where Kazuma he finds out that the noble guy has this mirror that lets him look into the bath room, and Kazuma's like, telling him, what, that's luxurious or lecherous? That's the word. You shouldn't do that. I'm going to sleep here to make sure that I'm going to keep guard here to make sure that no one peeks at the girls. And then the girls, of course, overhear, which of course is just him wanting to do it. But then the other girls hear them and get angry. There's that part where he tells Chris, oh, you should tie me up so that I can say that you overpowered me. and then Aqua basically uses it an opportunity to tell Kazuma a bunch of stuff that would make him annoyed while he can't actually do anything to her. There's a lot of good jokes in this episode. It was pretty solid on I think.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the characters just being funny. I am still surprised Darkness has been the straight man this entire arc, really.
Yeah, she hasn't really gotten a chance to be her usual self. She's still pretty funny, but I feel like she isn't getting used to her full potential.
Anyway, so yeah, that's Konosuba. This was a pretty strong episode.
Yeah.
All right. And by the way, it's one random thing I wanted to mention. It's funny because, well, when I happen to on Crunchyroll, it'll like advertise episodes that have the new like they'll advertise shows that have new episodes coming up, and there was one for like Konosuba, and it says that and it gives a brief description of them, and I'm looking at the episode. This is the same description they have on the main page of it, but it's just kind of like, it's like saying, when you just read the description, you think, wow, this sounds like a super boilerplate isekai story. It does not it does not indicate at all that this is like that this is a parody of them.
Yeah.
Like, it's saying, Aqua asked if he would like to go to another world and bring only one thing with him. Kazuma decides to bring the goddess herself, and they are transported to a fantasy world filled with adventure, ruled by a demon king, blah, blah, all this stuff. And, now Kazuma only wants to live in peace, but Aqua wants to solve many of this world's problems, and the demon king will only turn a blind eye for so long. I'm thinking, but the whole joke is that he's given the option for anything, but he's so annoyed at Aqua, he picks her. If you had just rewritten that to say, like, she bring one thing with him, but annoys Kazuma so much he forces her to come with him. Just mention that, and it explains the fact it's a comedy and a parody.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, the one thing I did not like from this episode, I will say, is like this forcing of this Kazuma Megumi romance. Like, okay, for one thing, I don't ship the two characters, so that's one thing. But my other problem with it is that it just seems so out of place with everything. Everything's a joke, and Kazuma's never serious. And they're like just trying to shoehorn in this romance there. And I just feel like that's not working with me.
Okay, so let's see if I don't mind that much, but they haven't really done that much with it either. So I mean, it does seem like if there's any thing they're going towards, it would probably be that, though. So let's see. I don't have anything else to say about it, I don't think. No, that's everything for Konosuba, really. Okay, so okay, yep, that's Konosuba. Then we've got to Kaiju number 8, episode 3. So, in this episode, they're going into, it's time to do what so many series do early on. It's time for the exam arc.
Yep.
I mean, it worked for Demon Slayer. Didn't work out so well for Red Hood. That's you've never heard of that. It was this long. It was canceled kind of pretty quickly. And so a bunch of people say, well, they shouldn't have done an exam arc that quickly. On the other hand, it worked out pretty well for Hunter x Hunter. It's just like, okay, exam arc right away.
Yeah, and that was probably the best part of Hunter x Hunter. No, never mind. I forgot about the York New arc. But that was one of the best parts of Hunter x Hunter, definitely.
Yeah. So, let's see.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thinking of York New in the exam arc. I was thinking, wow, they really built up Leorio and Killua like they were going to be really important, and then they're just not in the next two arcs. They weren't in Greed Island. They weren't in the Chimera Ants, and then they're just then they do kind of, Leorio shows up a bit in the Chairman exam arc, but it's just kind of weird for them to get this much set up, and then they're just gone for like these two very long arcs.
Yeah, you said Killua, you meant Kurapika.
Oh, right, Kurapika, that's what I meant, sorry.
Yeah.
Look, they both start with ku and they end in us. Okay. So, right, I was talking about Kaiju number 8. So, anyway, well, it worked out, at least in terms of popularity for this series, because, as you know, it got an anime. So, they have the exam arc. They go through the physical things. Kafka doesn't do that very well in it. They end up, then for like the practical exam, I think they called it, they're supposed to go and actually fight kaiju. They get like these sort of suits that are supposed to bring out your power, except Kafka's one is only 0%.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he's starting out in this army from 0. Okay, maybe that was not maybe that wasn't as clever as I thought it was. He's starting out in another place from 0. There, that sounds more like ReZero's title, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I should try to not even make these jokes. They all fail. Back to the thing. They go in, Kikoru, Shinomiya, she does super great at taking them all out. Kafka doesn't do so well. I mean, he's able to, give some advice to people, but other than that, he kind of gets beaten up and is almost taken out of it. But that, yeah, that's it. We're trying to exactly at what point this episode ends. Yeah, it's basically. Yeah, basically Kafka is struggling to keep going, but manages to, keep going, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he starts to get like 0.01% on his suit.
I mean, it's infinitely higher than what he had before.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like this is kind of cliched, but at the same time, it is pretty entertaining. So even though I feel like I've seen this before, I do think it's pretty entertaining. I still think it's good, just not great. I think there's a lot of potential with the Shinomiya character. Because she's kind of like an Asuka, that kind of character, and hopefully she gets a lot more focus. But I have no clue. I have not been able to catch up with the manga this past week, but yeah, so not bad, not bad at all.
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining. I figured you would like Hikaru Shinomiya. That was one of the reasons why I was thinking, well, of all the series to try out, why don't we try this one? You'll probably like that character. There's something that's the thing she does several times where she kind of like, I don't know exactly what you call it, where you kind of throw up her like hair in sort of an arrogant fashion. I feel like there's some other character who did that a bunch, and I cannot remember what character it was. Not in this anime, in some other one.
Right, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
I just don't know which character.
Anyway, so we've got that. Yeah, it was enjoyable. There are a few things that time for some pedantic nitpicks. So it mentions that Hikaru in the physical thing got like 5 out of 200 and something. Now, here's the thing. I can totally buy she's really, really good at this, and that she's able to because use those like super suits that you use to fight the kaiju with really well or whatever, basically their version of spiritual pressure or nen or chakra or whatever you want to call it. But that physical thing didn't have any of those, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, look, I know she's obviously really fit. I don't think a 16-year-old girl even is gonna beat all of these presumably very well trained like older guys and do that well in it. in that. Now, the second part, when they're actually in the suits, no problems there. It just felt a little weird for me. Bigger problem, why is no one wearing helmets? Legitimate question. And when I thought about that, I thought, wait a minute, why wasn't anyone wearing helmets in Attack on Titan either?
Yeah.
Like, that's an important thing to protect. You could easily fall in all sorts of things. You should be wearing helmets. Why aren't you wearing helmets? If it's because you're thinking, oh, you know, people have hair and you want to show them, okay, you can have them be special helmets, but where's the helmets? So that's my pedantic complaints about the series. On the whole, I thought it was pretty good, although I am left wondering why, what's his name? The guy with the bowl cut, Hoshina, that's his name. It's weird. He's got fangs in the anime. He did not have fangs in the manga. I don't know why they added that. Anyway, so yeah, that's me making some minor points on things that didn't really matter. It was an enjoyable episode. So, I guess we might as well see. Well, we've done 3 episodes. What's your verdict? Are we going to drop it, keep it, or are you not sure and you want to check it out another episode before making a final decision?
Yeah, keep going for now. We'll see if it seems like it's going in the right direction. One of my problems is that the main character is always called Sir, and that makes me not know what his name is. And it's like, okay, I'm finally getting to memorize it's Kafka, but they say Sir so much that I just started calling him Sir. He needs to be called by his actual name more. I don't understand that.
Honestly, I'll be honest. I have trouble remembering. I can remember him. I can remember like a few of the other characters. I kept forgetting Reno's name. I kept thinking it was Chino, but that's like the name. No, that's like the name of. That's the name of the character from One Punch Man, isn't it?
Right, One Punch Man. Yeah.
Or was it Genos? Wait, which one?
Genos. Yeah, that's what it was.
No.
Yeah.
Genos was Geno from Super Mario RPG? Was that the?
Yeah, that's what you're thinking.
Okay. So Geno was
also from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep thinking it's Geno, and no, it's Reno. Okay, well, Reno, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm going to move on before I make myself look even more foolish than I usually do. All right, so that's Kaiju number 8, and that's our series. Hooray! We're done.
Yay!
We didn't spend like an hour and a half on it again.
That's okay if we do, but unfortunately we didn't have as much to say this week.
Yeah. So, well, we didn't go off on as many tangents. So, yeah, we've got that. I guess we can give our top 3 rankings, and if there's anything else we want to discuss, we can.
Yeah. So my 3rd place show is Dark Gathering. My 2nd place show is Kaiju number 8. And my 1st place show, of course, is Konosuba.
All right, let's see. Are we counting My Adventures with Superman towards this? I'm not sure if we.
You can if you want. I'm not including it.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I have certain rules.
Okay. I'm trying to think if I should be trying to follow that rules, the same rules as you. Although one of the ones I won't be is you won't rank Full Metal Panic because you've seen it before. But let me think on how to do it. Okay. I guess I'll give it a more contingent one. Here's my order. Okay. We'll put in Kaiju number 8 in 3rd, My Adventures with Superman in 2nd, and Konosuba in 1st, And if you want me to not count My Adventures with Superman, then you just move Kaiju number 8 up a spot and put in, let's see, and put in Dark Gathering in third.
Yep.
Okay. All right, there we go. We're done with the stuff for this week. So, are there some things you want to talk about?
Yeah. I wanted to talk about this Cowboy Bebop live action finale of the season and the series, as it turns out. And boy, oh man, this thing was just okay. So this is the final episode, and we had this whole build up to the episode with a flashback episode last episode, and now Vicious is out to get Spike and kill him. So what he decides to do is he somehow, he's able to get the information that Spike is with Jet, and Jet has a daughter. So his idea is he'll kidnap Jet's daughter and then force Spike to come to him in exchange. And so they have a big battle where they all get all beat up and stuff, and they get captured. And eventually Jet gets his daughter back, and Spike and Vicious go to the battle. But then what happens with Jet is that his daughter's mother and her husband just kind of just take her daughter and leave, and he's just left there to sit there in despair. And Spike fights Vicious, and since they didn't want to kill off Vicious, they have Julia come, and she shoots both Vicious and Spike. And so now Vicious is captured, Spike is half dead, and then at the end of the episode, like you promised me, Radical Edwards shows up to bug Spike, who just is like lying there dead, and that's how it ends. And there literally is like no hope at all when this ends, except for this idea that, okay, maybe there's going to be a second season because Edward shows up there, and Edward wants Spike to capture some bounty or something, but it just ends right there. And obviously there was never a second season, so it kind of just ends in utter despair. And it's very depressing, and it is not very satisfying, and it feels like I wasted 10 hours of my life with this show. But I did try it. I did give it a chance, and I did sit through the whole thing, and I can say with certainty that it sucked and that it wasn't any good, and that it is a complete abomination to the name Cowboy Bebop. And as a palate cleanser, I've decided that I'm going to watch Cowboy Bebop the movie, the animated movie, the actual anime movie. I'm going to watch that soon, and I'll give my thoughts on that so I can hopefully have a better taste of Cowboy Bebop in my mouth because this episode or this show was just terrible.
So, now that you've gone through all the live action Cowboy Bebop, does this make you more appreciative of the live action One Piece?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
I also will say one thing. When with you describing about it kind of ending on a cliffhanger, it also is nice that now in the case of One Piece, it got renewed, so it's not an issue. But its ending was like if that was it, if it had never gotten a second season, it ends at a decent enough place. You know, there's obviously a lot of like things that need to be completed. They haven't actually made it to the grand line yet, but the most important stuff is. Like the immediate stuff is done. It doesn't just end on a cliffhanger. It ends with and they will go on more adventures, and we'll see those more adventures. But if we hadn't, then that would have at least still been an okay place to end. It sounds like this one is just playing a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Well, you could interpret it that Spike died. You could interpret it that way. So. It's not really as much of a cliffhanger as you think. It's just that everyone has such depressing endings, like Faye, who I call frat boy Faye because she acts like a frat boy, but she's just like, okay, I'm leaving. I'll see you, and that's all you hear from her. And then Jet, he's completely in despair. Completely depressed, injured, and he just kind of just leaves. And then Spike just shows up and he just collapses in front of Edward. And that's the end. And there's just, and Vicious isn't dead. He's just captured by Julia. And that's all there is to it. And yeah, it really is not a great ending.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone who will ever make a TV series was actually listening to this podcast, but in the off chance, you really shouldn't end your first season on a cliffhanger unless you're really, really sure you're going to get another one. Because otherwise you just end up with, endings like the one you're describing. Still, not as it's more cheerful than the end of the Silver Surfer animated series, which due to a cancellation, it was going to continue. They had like episodes written for the next season, but it got canceled. But there wasn't a second season as a result. And as a result, the ending of the series has a universe be destroyed. That's the end. It was going to be resolved in the next season, but because, like I said, it got canceled, that's how the series ends. I never saw the show. Well, maybe that's why it was canceled, but I've heard of that ending, and that's like, well, that's like the ultimate case of, wow, that cliffhanger got kind of was bad because they didn't get another season. Anyway, so yeah, well, I didn't watch any of it, but you seem to be kind of confirming what I've heard from other people, that it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about that because you were the one who watched all of it. I wonder what actually how many live action adaptations of anime has Netflix actually done? I think they had one on a Yu Yu Hakusho, but I don't know if they made it or if someone else made it and they just, aired it. Let me see. I'm looking at like the Yu Yu Hakusho live action one. I think Netflix actually made that one, but I'm not 100% sure. I know Netflix aired it. That's the tricky thing, because sometimes it's something that they actually made, but sometimes it's something someone else made and they just show it. So, yeah, that was Yu Hakusho. I think that one had an okay. That got like okay reviews, not great ones, but better than Cowboy Bebop did. All right. I don't think I have anything else to say about that. Anything else to talk about, or are we kind of done now?
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be in. I haven't seen the movie, so I guess I'll find out from you about that. That will be that for this episode. Then, in case you're wondering about Toonami Rewind, we are planning to watch it all for. We're planning to check it out and discuss it for the next podcast. Probably won't be a recurring thing because it's not at a great time for me, but for the first time, definitely I'm going to be checking it out. So, but it will have aired by the time this episode gets put up. So just might as well mention that. All right. And I think that is, in fact, everything. So we'll be back next week with our regular lineup with that stuff from Toonami Rewind to talk about. And hey, Zom 100 is back. So I guess we'll see more of that then. And without further ado, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
One of the best games from last year finally dropped for the PS5.
So, we grabbed our scuba gear
And sushi knives.
and went deep with Dave the Diver.
By day, you scour the depths for exotic sea creatures.
And at night, you sweat it out, serving up the day's catch at your sushi bar.
It's an odd but genius combination.
Press your luck in the sea for rare fish and hidden treasure.
While honing your crew's culinary skills.
To take the band show to the top of the food chain.
As the game progresses, so do the challenges.
In the deep and in the kitchen.
After a while, you can even grow your own produce.
And source fish from the nursery.
It may look a bit repetitive.
But you never know what the next day will bring.
And there's enough extra missions and surprises to keep the fun going.
We give Dave the Diver an 8.5 out of 10.
Bon appetit!
Every Saturday night, Cartoon Network's building you a better cartoon show. We call it Toonami. And we're giving you new shows every half hour for 4 straight hours.
Bring it on!
At 7, a new episode of Duel Masters. At 7:30, new Jackie Chan adventures. At 8, premiere episodes of Astro Boy.
Let's rock it!
At 8:30, brand new episodes of Rave Master. At 9, the Cartoon Network original Megas XLR. At 9:30, premiere episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho. At 10, new episodes of Dragon Ball GT. And closing it out at 10:30, even more new episodes of Gundam Seed. Even I'm a little new. Toonami, tonight from 7 to 11 p.m. It's a toast to those who rock. Only Toonami.